right. Attaboy. Is that a big dog? Is that a 650?
That's all I could find. I don't know if I'm going to get anything else done today, but
Yeah.
I figured share the Chimay. It's only the red though, 7%. So I might be all right.
I don't even know what I got. I know I have Chimay blue. Do you know off the top of the head the ABV of this bad boy?
I want to say 9.3.
They round down.
Something?
They just say 9. Yeah, great beverage, and I'm pretty stoked that you were able to get your hands on some Chimay red.
I don't have quite the appropriate vessel, but this little goblet will have to do. The only thing that kind of kills me is that's what I miss about racing Europe is how cheap they are over here or over there.
Yeah. Oh, it's.
I mean, this was like $14 or something.
Dude, I bought a 4-pack. This 4-pack cost $24.
Holy.
Which, okay, $6 a beer. If I were to go out to the bar and buy the same beer, it's going to cost 12 or whatever.
Yeah.
But right, to your point, for one, cheers.
Cheers.
It's practically happy hour in California right now.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I usually keep the Belgiums to the winter season.
Agreed. Dude, you go through like the Belgian airports and they have Chimay in the vending machines. You're like,
yeah,
life doesn't get much better than a Belgian airport. Yeah, what is your go-to? I've been drinking coming out of winter, I've been drinking a lot of stouts and all that. Way more than I'm used to because I used to be an IPA all day kind of guy.
Yeah. No, I mean, my roommate here is quite the wine drinker, so we've been doing a lot of Chardonnay, reds.
Mm-hmm.
Also, up where my parents live on this little island, there's a distillery that makes incredible gin and vodka, and this like lemon ginger. But for beer, I don't know. I like go back. Easy to find is like Leffe.
Yeah,
it's just really refreshing bit of spice.
And it's a great beverage. That's like
you don't get the brown over here, but just the blonde this time of spring, nice. My top 3 Belgium are Rochefort. The 10 is like the heavy.
What number? Okay, very good.
Sip. It's like you gotta sip that.
Yeah.
Long story. My old mechanics got my dog here, or one of the dogs.
Yeah.
Scotty, my old mechanic, almost wrecked my love of that beer at Iceman one year.
A little too much of a good thing?
Well, I don't know if they had it this year, the Ice Trophy. I think they did. But you go out partying with that and everyone wants to buy you a beer. And It started to melt. So I had to drink the Rocheforts very quickly and had about 5 of those in succession of an hour and a half.
Oh my
And you
word.
can imagine how that went.
Yeah.
But the other one I like is the Triple Carmelite. If you've had,
I don't think I even know that. Nuh-uh.
It's kind of like, it's kind of got kind of floral stuff. Hold on one second. I'm going to let this dog out. She wants to get out and sunbathe.
Cool. We're talking to Geoff Kabush, 3-time Olympian. Let's set the scene. It is Beijing. The year is 2008. And you're with basically the biggest character on planet Earth. You find yourself with Yao Ming. Walk me through a pretty amazing video that involves Chimay. Chimay is a different story, but it's also a great story. How do you meet up? That'll be the next one.
A few beer stories in my life.
Exactly. How do you meet up with Yao Ming, and how do you end up having a beverage in hand at that moment?
Yeah, funny story. Beijing, I was kind of like at the peak of my career, but it was kind of a bummer. I had a couple mechanicals in the race, so I was actually pretty down. We're kind of in and out for 5 days. The race went pretty crap. I don't know. I still finished 20th, which isn't much to write home about in the such a small field, and I was like, I don't even know if I want to go to closing ceremonies, but that ended up being my Olympic moment. But yeah, Yao Ming. I mean, I've always seen him around. I mean, not a ton, but at those events, and I always felt bad for him because I mean, it was in China. He was like one of the biggest names representing the Olympics there, and you just see him in the village, and everyone like, "Can I take a picture? Can I take a picture? Can I take a picture?" And so leading into went to the closing ceremonies, and the closing ceremonies for anyone, it's quite a bit more boring than the Olympic or the opening ceremonies. It's a lot of speeches, and we're all just gathered there mingling on the infield, and me and Canadian teammate to race the mountain bike Seamus, we were kind of bored, and so we decided to go look for some drinks, which involved kind of escaping the infield, walking up all these stairs to like the concession stand up in the general public, and the beers were only about $1 each, so we grabbed a tray and bought as many as we could, probably 15 or 20, carried them on a tray, snuck into the infield. And I think it was probably one of the first trips, saw Yao Ming kind of look tired and sitting there with his friends. I was like, "Yao, you want a beer?" He's like, "Oh, no, but Tsingtao, that's the best beer." I think it's sponsored. And fast forward like about an hour later, and we'd made, 5 or 6 trips, and he was getting really tired sitting on the ground with his friends. And I saw him again. I was like, "Hey, Yao, want a beer?" And he's like, "Oh, okay." So I handed him a beer, and then I grabbed mine and just slammed it and threw my hands in the air like, "I beat you." And he's like, "Oh, okay, another one. Let's go and do it official." And that's when the super crappy 8-second YouTube clip got filmed by a friend. Pretty close photo finish there, but yeah. And then anyway, had another shotgun contest, and then traded pins with him. So I think I still have my accreditation with the Chinese pin from Yao Ming, and it's pretty funny because he was known as a pretty straight-laced dude, and a bunch of the celebrity sites in China kind of picked up the video, and I think it was a pretty positive spin for his image to see Yao. So it got picked up on all like the, I don't know, whatever gossip sports websites and stuff. So anyway, that was my 2008 Olympic moment.
Okay, so I aired earlier pointing out the Chimay blue. Coach K. Some might think of segueing a Yao Ming story and mentioning Coach K, and you think basketball, but no, I'm talking about Coach Kabush. Revolutionary training techniques. Now it is admittedly a very forward-thinking cyclocross training campaign. Walk me through that one, because I just watched it prior to calling you up here, and it still absolutely puts me in hysterics.
Hey everyone, Coach K here. Cross is coming. I gotta squeeze in something that's gonna get me fit and ready to survive in Belgium. I'm gonna share with you tonight my 60-second cyclocross training video for athletes who want to go to Belgium, whether it be in the race, spectating, fighting for position. This workout really covers it all. You might say, why should I trust Geoff Kabush? What does he know? Coach K, where did that come from? This is based on everything I've learned racing in Belgium through my many years. Well, one trip I did actually, but I pick up things quick. I know there's a lot of other guys out there making training video. American cyclocross racer, Jay Powell, behind the barriers videos. You got Tim Johnson. So in my mind, I'm pretty much a world championship medalist as well. A lot of people would take tips from Sven Nys, the Louisville foam party. He wouldn't wrestle me. Even after I showed him how, he wouldn't go crowd surfing off the balcony. I cannot trust a guy like that. It's really important to have the right tool for the job here. One of these. A bottle opener, fashioned on a brake booster. Bonus to anyone who knows what a brake booster is. I won this in a breakdance contest. So, beer. Yeah, that's what I noticed in Belgium. All the Belgians were shit-faced drunk. They like to drink a lot and they like to go to cross races. So this is going to prepare you for that. Important, proper vessel for the right beer. It says right on the back, right glass for the Chimay. Chimay Blue goblet. 2 beers. Pop them open. Two beers. 2 glasses. The goal of this workout is not only to build tolerance for Belgian beer, but also to build some strength and fitness. So what we want to do is drink 1 beer, do 50 push-ups, and drink second beer in under 60 seconds. Pretty simple, just in case I throw anything out. I do have some safety protocol in place. I do live with a firefighter and physio. In case there's an emergency, they're just right there. Okay, we ready? That's how you do it. Cross is coming. Good luck with your cross season. I'll see you out there. Cheers.
Yes, my very amateur videography, I think, kind of adds to the humor. But yeah, I don't know where I came up with that idea, but it actually took quite a bit of preparation to pull that off. You know, I didn't want to have to do, you know, extra takes. I wanted to nail it on the first time. So I was definitely practicing, and well, it involves 1 Chimay 50 push-ups and another Chimay all in under 60 seconds. And I think it goes back, I don't know, like I seriously think any, you know, mountain biker with their grain of salt or whatever should be able to do 50 push-ups. So I've always advocated for push-ups, and I don't know, always tried to use sense of humor to connect with people. But yeah, I think I had that idea for probably 2 or 3 years, but I finally got around to the fall in the right time. I could pull it off. And
the commentary is outstanding.
I was pretty psyched I was able actually to find those pictures of Sven Nys there.
Mm-hmm.
That really kind of added to the montage.
Yeah.
So
no, it's outstanding.
Yeah. I want to do at first I wanted to kind of, you know, shotgun cans, but I was struggling to find a safe, effective way to do it quite as quickly, and I thought the Belgian beer would be more of a tie-in. So I might eventually pull out one of my another old characters, Diener, from way back when, and do another version of the workout.
This sounds like an excellent idea. Not to promote overconsumption. I've never lost a shotgun competition, my friend.
Oh, I'm not that good. I'm just steady.
Got it. Well, at some point, I'd love to take
up my throat.
See what you got. Yeah. Okay. You're obviously very multifaceted in these training techniques. Like 50 push-ups is pretty legit. I've been doing one of my coronavirus distractions is I have no idea why this headline came up in YouTube, but it said, "This is what happened when I did 100 burpees a day for 30 days." And I didn't actually watch the video. But there's something about that stuck with me. I'm like, I've never done a burpee in my life. And so now that it's May 1st, I'm literally 16 days into it.
Nice.
I don't feel any better. I don't know. I don't have a before and after picture. Your push-ups are amazing. Another thing that I think absolutely makes you stand alone, Grouse Grind Mountain Run. Like, I don't know a single cyclist who enjoys running or can do it well, let alone win a running race. So WTF, like, tell me about the Grouse Grind Mountain Run.
Well, it's kind of another thing I always advocate is multi-sport, like, especially for young kids. I always, advocate not to focus on, one sport, whether it be cycling or whatever, too early. So me and I always did everything growing up, running being one of them.
Mm-hmm.
But even when I started my career, I always like to do something else in the fall. Little known fact, I was a triathlete a couple of falls for Xterra.
Okay, that was close.
The main motivation was going to Hawaii. So
gotta have your inspiration. Okay.
I actually had a better world championship Xterra finish than mountain bike for a long time. So I finished 9th there one fall. Mm-hmm. Also ran a couple marathons in the fall just for fun, just a challenge.
What kind of times you putting down?
Well, the first one, my goal was just to break 3 hours. So I did that by 10 seconds.
Oh, man.
And then I did it another 2 or 3 years later. And that time I decided I was going to push myself a little bit more. And I think I ran just under 2:45.
Whoa, brutal. Well done.
But anyway, yeah. Fast forward to the Grouse Grind. I mean, it's not, you can hardly call it a run because it's 700 meters vertical, 2,500 feet straight up in under half an hour. You basically go jog a little bit straight to max on a stair climber for a long time, and then you run around a little bit at the top. And it was always I was living in North Van. I lived in North Van when I moved back to Canada for probably 3 years, and it was always a fun workout. When I was just too busy a day, I'd go do the Grouse Grind, and it was actually quite a lucrative half hour. The Grouse Grind, there was actually $1,500 and some gift certificates on the line. And yeah, I didn't even really know who I was running against, but there was actually some pretty accomplished mountain runner skimo guys that I beat, and great photo of me on the finish line with them bent over.
Exactly. That's what I was going to point out. Like on the start line, okay, there you are dashing off with everybody else, and you look like a runner as much as anybody else. And it's at the finish line where you're just gazing off in the distance, and these dudes behind you are completely keeled over. Sorry, fellas.
I think I'd had 30 or 40 seconds to recover a bit, but yeah, that was a great capture. But no, I mean, I still like to jog a little bit. I couldn't compete in a more of a flat run, but running uphill is pretty similar to the cycling muscles. So
sure,
definitely nice. That one you can take the gondola back down, so you don't have to smash your muscles running downhill. Yeah. So that's why it was a nice, easy half-hour hard workout.
Perfect.
On a busy day.
Perfect. And how's the course actually format? Are you going upstairs, or are you does it funnel down to a staircase or a wide staircase, or how the heck does everybody make it on up?
Yeah, I mean, it starts at the base of the gondola in the parking lot. So you have about 100 meters across the parking lot into a kind of steep gravel trail for probably the first, 3 or 4 minutes. And then it gets into more stepped gravel, wood steps, rock. It's almost like an uphill scramble for the majority until you get to the ski resort at the top. And then the last couple minutes maybe is on a kind of access road around to the front of the lodge.
Brutal.
But it's just man, you go a minute or two and you're basically straight to max, just hands on knees, scrambling straight up the hill. But it's super popular. You can get timing chips, and you can swipe at the bottom and swipe at the top, and there's leaderboards all year. There's an app for it, and so it's quite popular.
Oh, geez.
In Vancouver.
How close is it to Vancouver itself?
Well, just on the North Shore, North Van. So, it's beautiful view from the top over Vancouver and the water. If you're in Vancouver, you look to the North Shore, and there's night skiing, so you can see the lights in the windmill. But right on the edge of town there, so super close.
That's sweet. So staying on topic of being multidisciplined. Okay, I did some homework here. You're on the mountain bike. You got 3-time Olympian, 9-time cross country national title. You won a World Cup. You are a 9-time World Cup podium finisher. Let's jump to cyclocross. I think you have 5 national titles. You have 1 marathon title, backtracking to the mountain bike. And of course, you do some of this gravel stuff. So you got Iceman, you got a handful of other races. You won one of very few races that are going to exist this year.
Yeah, I was kind of saying that might be the highlight of my season. Ironic, well, foreshadowing maybe.
Right, season opener is the highlight, and we can get back to that. But the one thing that is almost missing from your list of palmares is the road. And then when you go deep into Geoff Kabush, you raced on Jittery Joe's in 2005, and then Symmetric 6 and 7. Like, this is Geoff Kabush, the roadie.
No, those are some good memories. I mean, I connected with. I don't know how. I guess Max was always one of my major sponsors dating back, and I mean, Jittery Joe's being based in Georgia, where Max's is. There was a connection with Michael Rice, who was then the manager of Jittery Joe's, and had some fun there for a couple of years. Yeah, doing Tour of Georgia, which was massive at that time with Postal there and who, everyone. And got to do some of the big Philly week stuff. Did Philly a couple times and some of the other East Coast classics. And then, on Symmetrics, got to do some really crazy events too. With the all-stars there, man. Like all the top Canadians at the time came out of that team. That team was just a bit ahead of its time. But I did like Tour Chihuahua, which was a crazy experience. And probably the most crazy one was Tour of Cuba, which was 14 stages in 13 days.
No rest day.
Down there for 3 weeks. And it was just nuts. Like I got sick in the middle of it. Swain Tuft was our team leader there. And for one, I mean, the Cubans had 10 provincial teams, one for each province. And then they had 2 national teams. So it's 72 Cubans against us. But the sketchiest part was, there's a bunch of doped up Italians, which made it really hard. I can't remember the team that Joe Papp was on.
Yeah.
It was that squad who came over. But, a couple of stories. I remember maybe stage 8 was a mountain. And you know how usually if you're in the gruppetto, you get pushed up the mountains. Well, Tour of Cuba, you got pushed off the front. And I was in the lead group, and all the fans kept pushing the Cubans off the front. And I was getting pissed off. So when they came to push a Cuban, I'd grab onto their jersey, and they'd start swinging at me. And then they'd come up and pretend that they were going to push us. But instead of pushing us, they'd steal our water bottles. Good
Holy
banana
crap.
transfer. And then the next day was, I think stage 9 was a time trial. And Swain, being an amazing time trialist, he took the lead on that stage. 30K time trial. And we had a 2-hour lunch break in a school gymnasium. And then the afternoon, it was supposed to be like a 150 kilometer stage, but it ended up being a 170 kilometer stage.
Right. Surprise.
And the Italians were just attack. And we all rode on the front until we exploded and left Swain alone. And he held on to the yellow jersey. We ended up in some small town and with no food and a 2-hour transfer. And in the end, we ended up holding on. I think we bribed the Mexicans to help us. We gave them a time trial frame and some nutritional, some gels and bars, and they helped defend against Italians and ended up winning that race. But oh man, that was eye opener what the body can do. I mean, you've done Grand Tour and you know how you just push through, somehow survive and keep on going.
Yeah, everything you just described is pretty damn accurate. Even down to the cross section of Italians and what you're seeing in Cuba. There are plenty of times you're racing, you see the sign that says 20K to go. you're in the freaking Giro, and then it turns out being 30K. It's like, why can we not get that simple aspect of the race dialed?
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I loved racing on the road. Love the tactics. I mean, I love some of the mountain bike events like Iceman or Sea Otter where we get to use the tactics. But I mean, I thought about switching over, but I mean, I have a lot of respect for the guys did. But I mean, I saw what was happening there with Postal at Tour of Georgia, and I was like, well, I could survive, but I just love the mountain bike the lifestyle, the mountain bike, and knew I could have success there, even though mountain biking had its own issues during that period too. But no, I mean, I wish I could have done more road in Europe. I would have loved to been able to do that in my career for sure. And
was your entry into cycling on the mountain bike, or was it a little bit road and mountain?
Pretty much mountain. Yeah, I mean, there was when I was young, like there was a local club in Comox Valley where I grew up, and I do the local road races. But for sure, it was mountain bike, and got into the Canada Cup mountain bike series as a junior. I started doing well, and yeah, ended up traveling across the country as a junior. Those are some good stories of, I don't know how my parents would let me, but I mean, yeah, I was 18 and I like packed up. Back then I'd raced downhill too. I raced downhill as a junior, and cross country. I said, pack up my 2 bikes and my camping gear, and like flew out to Toronto and caught a cab to the race venue and camped out for the week by myself, making craft dinner and tuna, oatmeal in the morning. And then somehow I got a ride with my doctor's friend back to the airport and out to Nova Scotia, and like camped out for the week for 3 days before I saw anyone else show up at nationals. But yeah, that year as a junior, I got to go to qualified for World Championships 95 in Germany, which was just insane experience. Once again, flew over by myself and caught a train down to the Black Forest and had to figure out how to phone the guest house and talk to German and wait for 2 hours for the national team to come pick me up. And my bank card didn't work, so thank God my high school buddy was over there and lent me some Deutschmarks to make it through the week. But I mean, it was just, yeah, I mean, mountain biking was just crazy, and the crowds. And I did well in Canada as a junior on a mountain bike, but at Worlds, I think, that was back, countries didn't really have a limit. So there'd be like 20 juniors from each country. And I out sprinted 2 people on the finish for 99th place.
Oh, so nice.
That's another story I tell the juniors, like, don't worry about how you do as a junior. There's still lots of time. But no, I was hooked after that experience, and came back and moved down to Victoria where I started going to school, did an engineering degree there, which was definitely tough to finish off. It was a co-op program, so I did actually do 5 semesters of work experience. And luckily I connected with a guy who actually sponsored kind of the team I was on. He ran a aluminum fabrication engineering firm, so I was able to do all my work experience there. But yeah, I was working, 32, 35 hours a week and training. And the worst was because of the co-op program, it alternated school in the summer. So, man, yeah, it was brutal. A couple of summers I was taking 4 courses and trying to race. But yeah, I finished that off after 7.5 years. Along the way, I finally had my breakout and started making a living halfway through my degree. But so that was hard to finish off the school, but got it done. And since 2003, I graduated and just been racing since then. But yeah.
Wicked. So, I mean, you hit it a couple minutes ago. Like, you, in racing through the span of time that you've raced through a pretty gnarly era. Road has certainly gone through its trials and tribulations, to say it very lightly. And mountain too. I mean, how, as a sport that has chewed up and spat people out, how have you been able to, persevere is as good a word as any.
Yeah, no, it's interesting looking back, because the choices I made, and hard to say why I did when I was surrounded by guys who made different choices. But I guess I was always kind of more, internally focused. intrinsically motivated, my sister would say, who's a kind of sports psych.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I always just really enjoyed the process. And I think I was lucky. I mean, for one, I had school going on the side and racing. So I was able to just kind of develop at my own pace. And I think I was a bit naive of what was going around me for a while. And I mean, I think I had success. I mean, kind of worked through the late 90s. And I mean, I can't believe how motivated I was back then. I mean, like I said, when I was going to school and working, and I'd like race back from working from 7 to 2, put on my lights and ride for a couple hours with these BLT lead acid batteries. I'd ride until the last minute. I could turn them on and then turn them on, and they'd barely last an hour 45. And sometimes it'd be riding home in the street lights and then go again the next day. So, I mean, I didn't have much of a life back then. I was pretty focused on school and training and working really hard. And in 2000, I kind of broke through and made the Olympic team and had a really top result at Olympics, finished 9th there. And I think a lot of that was due to the fact that there was a rumored EPO test at the time. So
did you start that rumor? You're like, you guys are all screwed. Guess what? There's a test.
No, but it was definitely a breakthrough result, 9th there, and I signed a contract with Kona at that time for 3 years, which kind of carried me through that period. And I had a bunch of, decent results, 4th and 5th. And I think at the time Kona was expecting more from me, but didn't renew my contract. And I think later they realized probably why I wasn't able to achieve as many podiums as I was hoped, but got me through to 2004. And even then, like, I still can't believe some of the results I had back then, like some top 10s at some World Cups. And I think it was a lot due to the fact that I grew up in BC and was really strong technically. Look back at some of those results and the guys I was surrounded with is pretty nuts. But I was lucky. I was good enough to kind of make it through that period, I guess. And unfortunately, like a lot of my friends couldn't get contracts or had to quit. Mm-hmm. But made it through 2004 and graduated from school. And actually, after that Kona contract, I really had no idea about a contract. Kona wasn't going to renew it, and I was through to January without a contract. And I was just kept on working hard, and kind of Max's team came through at the last minute. They were going to merge with Giant at the time, and that fell through. So they were going to carry on with their own team and were looking for riders, and that started a long relationship. Still working with Maxis, rode for their team for 7 years. But yeah, and then 2004 I really kind of had a breakout season domestically, and had great support since then. And I mean, yeah, just feel lucky to kind of make it through that period. And certainly, for sure, looking back, it's really nice to have no regrets. And obviously I was pretty vocal about anti-doping and outspoken about it. And it's definitely nice to have that platform. And people can't say, well, you don't know what you would have done. I mean, I was there and made different decisions, and happy to be pretty outspoken about it whenever I have the opportunity.
And how much do you see at the time? Like, at what point do you begin being outspoken about it? Is it, I mean, this is also in an era that like we don't have the platform that we have now as athletes. So when do you know something's going on, and when do you start preaching it?
Yeah, like I said, I mean, I was still a bit naive. I was through around 2000, 2001. I was surrounded by Canadian guys. A lot of them have either tested positive, or some of them haven't admitted everything. But it was really tough, I think, around that period, because I'd go out for training rides in Victoria back when I'd still train with a group, and it was just insane. Like, I didn't want to go full race pace, but I'd get dropped and doing be like 6 hours into a ride and it'd be going 42 kilometers an hour and just be like, what the hell is going on? And I think what was really nice, ex-girlfriend of one of the riders, like I was getting a bit frustrated. She told me like, there's a reason why you can't keep up. Because she knew that all it took at that time was a credit card and FedEx to get some EPO.
Yeah.
And around that time I started training by myself, which made things a lot easier mentally. Cause I think during that period I was just like, I don't know, I'm never going to be able to do that. Cause it was just like training rides were just insane. But I guess, I survived through that period and knew what was going on and was frustrated. But in 2004, I guess at Sea Otter, I had a really close race with Philippe Merhog, Belgian. You may have heard of it. Came second to him there, and later that year he tested positive for EPO, which was no surprise to anyone. And after that incident, I was spending some time in Boulder, and a friend there, Brandon Dwight, we kind of made some T-shirts with some iron-on letters that said "Dope or Suck." And
did you start that?
Well, yeah, I was like dating a girl, Gretchen, in Boulder, and living with Brandon, and we ironed on some letters onto a shirt. First, after Merog tested positive, wore it on a podium at a Norbup at Snowmass, and then Brandon kind of ran with that and made some T-shirts. And the next year at Sea Otter, I think I posted a little while ago, actually had some like official Dope or Suck shirts. So kind of the year after, where I got beat by Mirhog, I went up on the one Sea Otter cross country the next year and went up on the podium and opened up my skin suit with a Dope or Suck shirt, and then got the jersey and put it on over top of that. And then, that was a little controversy. I was controversial. Some people didn't like the message "Dope or Suck," but I'd been affected by it, and also like started a program with a little more positive spin with Cycling Canada called Race Clean, Own Your Victory, kind of a program to help promote clean sport. And that was important to me. We have a lot of good role models in Canada. And the message I wanted to give was, the worst is like that you finally start having success and everyone believes that you're on drugs too. So I wanted to be vocal about it, but I also wanted to let kids know that, you can have success at the highest level, and got some other great role models on board with that, like Swain, who really believe in, and Catherine Pendrell, and just advocate that message that, like cycling's brutal. It's really hard, but you can, if you do it the right way, because everyone second guesses whether they can make it, but just speaking from the highest level, let kids know that, you can make the right decisions and still have success. And certainly feels good at this point in my career to look back and have no regrets or skeletons in the closet.
Yeah.
So
that's freaking awesome. I've always, my entire professional career was on the road where you can end up being pretty robotic. And yes, professional road racers, as much as you can slag on them for not having bike handling skills, like they're all very adept bike handlers, but it is nothing compared to a mountain biker or a professional cyclocross racer. Like so looking at from the perspective of off-road riding, there's sort of two entities there, right? It's like a huge, huge skill pool, and then your motor, how many watts you're going to put out, which can be enhanced. The first thing, the skill side, you can't enhance that. So,
yeah,
asking a professional mountain biker, how do you talked about growing up in BC and having adept skill, like how do those two things mash up together?
I think a big part that I was able to survive was I had that technical side growing up in BC, and I certainly couldn't compete in all courses. That's the nice thing about mountain bike. There's so many different interpretations of it. And during that really tough period where people taking shortcuts, I could still have success in certain venues and certain conditions where, I could use the technical skills in my head a bit more. And, that's why I dabbled in the road, but never switched over, and have a ton of respect for guys that fought a good fight there. I came, growing up in Canada, very, privileged life, growing up there. And it's hard to judge things black and white, growing up in Europe, Eastern Bloc, and some people see cycling as just a job. They don't really give a fuck about ethics. That's why I think some people took the doper suck message a little more negatively, but still felt it was important to be outspoken about how I feel about sport and the values of sport and choices everyone can make.
Right on. And I guess it's my own curiosity that's asking. It's like, when you see somebody who is extraordinary at cyclocross and mountain bike racing for not just race after race after race, but year after year doing the same thing and like completely kicking ass in a sport that has so much luck, like certainly road racing has luck, but to not roll a tire, to not pinch flat at the wrong time, like because all of mountain and cyclocross races are so acute as opposed to being a stage race where you can make up a mistake. Like, do you look at those extraordinary year after year results and do you see that from a skeptic's eye, or do you see that as, shoot, that person's just like on another level and they're that good?
No, I still think some of the performances you see are incredibly impressive, for sure. There's a lot more than just the motor. That being said, I have to look at everything a bit skeptically, unless you can know a person really well, but you still don't know. So it is tough being a fan of the sport when you see such amazing performances that are impressive regardless, but it just sucks. You still have to take everything with a grain of salt because you don't know. Unless you're there with the person. There's lots of instances where they're super nice guys, but make different decisions. But regardless, it's still super impressive watching some of the long strings of success and what people do on a bike, regardless.
Yeah. Well, yeah. You hit it on the head. Like you and I are both fans of the sport, and so you want to be a fan. Obviously, the sport has not done itself any huge favors, and it breeds skeptics. You grew up doing a bunch of sports, and that's allowed you to be active and be dexterous and know how to have a little hand-eye coordination. Do you watch contemporary sports? Do you watch football, baseball, basketball, hockey?
Hockey for sure. Being Canadian, still, even when I'm in the U.S., followed out a bit in the Bay Area. It's hard not to be a fan of Golden State. That was kind of my main high school sport, was basketball. I was probably most focused on that until after high school. So watch that a bit. These days I really enjoy watching Supercross, motocross, Formula One. Even the sports I'm not really interested in, like baseball or football, is still interesting to see people perform under pressure. So like when it comes down to the finals and the playoffs, don't follow some sports, but I'm a sports fan for sure, and watching all kinds of stuff. Watch all the mountain bike stuff still for sure, even if I'm not at World Cups. Yeah.
And I think that I'm in the exact same boat, and I love sports and I love watching sports, and it's so funny that I think one of the biggest reasons that cycling has such a negative image is certainly some really bad eras in there. But then across sports, there are plenty of really bad eras, and plenty of them we're still in. But, cycling, in my mind, has done a really good job of exposing it and combating it and making news about it. And because the sport is not protected, it's not like you can, rely on the union to be like, hey, shut up, we can't talk about that. It's goofy. In NFL, there's a player who serves a suspension and is then on the Pro Bowl team 2 weeks later. So.
No, yeah. It's super frustrating that, in some aspects, cycling's been really proactive compared to other sports, and they get penalized with the stigma of it. But some of it's deserved, some of it's not. I mean, yeah, you look at some of the other professional sports, and it's, it's entertainment when you look at it at some point.
Plain and simple. That's it. All right, jumping to a modern era. How do you, outside of a global pandemic year, because you're so multidisciplined and all the stuff you do, like how do you pick a schedule for the forthcoming year? Do you know it well in advance, or do you just sort of spitball last minute to pick events?
I have a lot of freedom. I mean, this is after 2016. I've been running my own program, and for sure, I think definitely I was lucky. I mean, I thought for sure, I used to look at my career in Olympic cycles that, maybe I'd be able to race through 2012, 2016, but yeah, lucky the sports really evolved. And I was always, growing up in BC, I had those skills. So I had a pretty diverse skill set, and I always started exploring some of those other events. Like in 2012, 2013, I went to this 6-day enduro just because I wanted to, called Transfervance. Still one of the coolest events. Went back this summer, kind of a 6-day campground enduro through the Maritime Alps in southern France. And I always raced cross just because it was fun and a way to, get some media when there wasn't much else going on. And anyway, I've been able to transition to a lot of fun events. And as my career has transitioned, a lot of the sponsorship and media focus has transitioned, which has been really amazing. Now, like BC Bike Race, which I never had time to do, is one of the main focal points for marketing in North America for mountain bike industry and the epic rides, the 50 milers. But I just kind of look at the schedule, what kind of fits my skill set and where the media coverage is and where I can have some success and, provide some value for my sponsors. Sometimes I get suckered into going to events like Dirty Kansas because the sponsors are really into this gravel thing. And so, I had a ton of fun out there, made the most of my time, had some good times, but wasn't on my schedule this year. So
no way. For real? You weren't planning to do it?
No, it just took too much out of me. And in the end, it actually been a schedule conflict with the Grand Junction Off-Road, which is one of the really fun technical epic rides events. So I was going to do that instead and do Lost and Found, which is close to here. But yeah, everything's gone, and I'm pretty 50-50 if we'll do anything this year, but we'll see.
That's the truth.
But I'm just thankful I'm not like in the height of my career where I was gearing up for Olympics, because it's been really hard mentally for those athletes to kind of readjust. But I can't complain. It's a bit of an adjustment, but just trying to, a bit more diverse as an athlete right now, luckily. So trying to just provide value where I can for sponsors, doing some testing, product development, working on my YouTubing and whatever.
We need more ideas, cyclocross training videos. We need like the gravel equivalent. You sort of summed up the final handful of questions. It was going to be like, would you ever picture doing what you're doing now, or like talking about modern cycling? It's funny because to me, gravel it's very forward driven by what people seemingly want to do in the migration, to just be like, all right, yeah, we'll do some competition, but also just chill out and we're riding for this beer or whatever. At the same time, the industry has gotten behind it, and that's why 3 years ago, the expo at Dirty Kansas was 20 vendors, and this year it's 200. So it's an interesting time in the sport that's driven both by the groundswell of support and then by the industry itself. And it's funny because the whole sport's fluid, right? Like what we see now is certainly not what it's going to be in 3 years. It's not what it was 3 years ago. So
yeah, that's like I said, I was like, maybe I'll be able to ride till my mid to late 30s, but I don't want to be like that sad old guy just hanging on. But at some point I was like, why don't I mean, I still love riding my bike, and I'm just turned 43. And
I think we were a mere 41, man. Attaboy.
So I was still can find success here and there. I mean, it's hard to keep up with the young guys, but it's fun giving it to the young guys, rubbing it in that they got beat by an old Masters guy.
Uh-huh.
But I mean, I definitely explored. I mean, my 30s, I thought, there's going to be a timeline in my career. And so I explored getting involved in like a sports center in BC, but it's just too hard to balance it when I was focused 100% on racing, and just realized, why not just keep focusing on what I'm doing. I'm doing well. And like I said, I think lucky that the sport's evolved, and still have some, luckily I've been racing forever. So I have some really good relationships with the sponsors that support me and can keep kind of evolving how I can provide value. And yeah, I mean, like right now, just trying to, take the time to kind of share some of the knowledge that I've kind of gained over the last 25 years and find ways. But yeah, it's definitely been a challenge. I mean, I miss the old days when, I'd go to a bike race and then just go back home for the winter and ride my bike, and that was it. And then show up at the next race in the spring. So it's definitely a challenge to evolve as an athlete, but kind of embrace that. It's always fun to keep on learning. When I started my own program, it was definitely a challenge to get everything up and running, learning how to design my own website, whatever, and build those relationships directly. And I'm my own mechanic now. I was just in the garage, swapping shifter, brakes, bleeding. I've always been interested in bikes, and just still really enjoy riding my bike. Gravel's popular and super fun the bikes we get to ride these days and what they can do. And that's kind of like my hashtag, keep riding until the fun stops. But yeah, why do I need to stop if I'm still having fun? So I got another couple of years of contract, and just try not to plan beyond that and just see what happens. So life is great right now, and can't complain, even considering the circumstances.
Well said, man. I think that it comes with the perspective of the past 20 years, 25 years to certainly not be anxious. I talked to Leah Davison, who's towards the end of her career. She's a 2-time Olympian. But yeah, she's in Olympic year. And like, how do you prep for that? And yeah, it's nice to have the perspective and be able to chill out and relax a little bit. So that is outstanding. Keep on going. Keep on riding until the fun stops. That is pure poetic bliss there, Geoff. All right, we're going to wrap with 3 questions.
All right.
You are a world traveler. You have ridden your bike in a lot of places. 1, what is your favorite place to ride a bike? 2, what is the number 1 place you would like to ride a bike you've never ridden? With the qualifier that you've just recently ridden in the Himalayas. So like you ride your bike everywhere. And then number 3, living or otherwise, with whom would you like to go for a bike ride?
Well, for sure. My favorite spot to ride is in BC, being a mountain biker. I just so lucky. Hornby Island is where we have a family cabin, and that's it's just emotionally like really sentimental place for me, where there's a little mountain. It's not like it's super crazy, but just super fun. XC trails, some beautiful sandy beaches. We have a cabin on the water where you can walk down the beach and pick up oysters, and
heaven.
A lot of it's like a special place. I always go there for a week now after BC bike race, just to relax and recover, or try to make it over there in the fall. So everywhere in BC is just amazing. Trails and dirt. I definitely miss the dirt being down here in California, so it's fun to go back and ride there. Man, places I'd like to ride. It's still, I have like a super busy schedule, but I think there's just so many places in BC that I haven't got to visit. I'd love to spend the summer traveling around and riding interior BC. Like, man, I used to race there, but I haven't ridden there in 20 years. And that's what's so cool. I mean, it's part of the tourism there. So even like in Squamish, where I'm based in Canada now, every time I go back, there's so much new trail work, such huge investment by the communities and trail networks. So I just feel like, man, there's still so many places in BC that I haven't got to ride and visit for so long. And
That's
love to
so
go back
cool.
and see what's happening. But I mean, ride with probably John Tomac. He was like my
legend.
Yeah, I mean, when I started, he was definitely like one of my idols, along with a bunch of the top guys. And I still remember he was like at the end of his career. I don't know what year it was, probably 97. There was like a Norba National up in Washington State. And I don't know, got to like ride I was kind of racing with him probably in the 30s. And I remember riding one of the descents with him, and just the roar of the crowd was just insane.
That's wild.
So, I mean, I definitely follow his Eli, his son now, and actually got Payson to ask him in a podcast when he's going to come and do BCBR.
That was a great podcast.
So he used to be a Yeti rider too, so it'd be super fun to get him out and do an event or something. But yeah, I just really, I mean, respected him, and then even more, I mean, wanted to, believe in him as a rider. And there's like a Bell promo video about where he talked about his career and making the right choices in sport, and I made me respect him even more. But he was just such an all-around diverse rider. It'd be really fun to go out, be able to ride with him someday.
Nice. I dig it. You were talking about, you don't want to be the old guy riding like past your prime and yada, yada, yada. Backtrack 10 minutes when you were talking about that. Ned Overend is somebody that you might think like, man, like, why doesn't he just stop riding? And then you listen to that podcast between he and Payson and John Tomac, and like, I love everything he says. Like, he's just still completely in love with riding a bike. He does it for the right reasons. He has a good time. He's obviously fit as a freaking fiddle. And I really enjoyed that conversation. Not to mention everything that you get from Tomac, who's just legend in so many ways.
Yeah. I mean, I got into cycling because I was a bike dork and love the equipment. And I mean, still like living the dream. I used to like, remember going to races with my friends, like, oh, imagine if we could, get just paid to go to races, all our expenses, it wouldn't cost us anything. And I mean, what am I 25, 30 years later after that? And I mean, I still love, but got a bunch of new bikes in the garage to build up, and still love to geek out and see the new stuff. And I mean, bikes are pretty amazing these days. So, really enjoying it still.
Sick. Now, normally I'd wrap up, but one thing I was trying to do for homework here is I feel like, I hope my memory serves me correctly. I feel like if I was flipping through a magazine in the early 2000s, maybe late 2000s, there was an ad with you, perhaps with Maxxis, I'm picturing like really dark ad. There's like neon lights everywhere. And you have a bike on one side. And then did you have like a Maxxis van with some massive Maxxis tires on the van or truck?
There was they did a crossover promo between Maxxis Auto and the bike. There's actually an Audi wagon had at the time that we shot. Yeah. With there's a bunch of lights like under the car, into the car.
And are you like crouched down next to it?
I'm like standing next to it, and there's a guy pretending to steal my bike in the background running away. Like, circa 2005. But
okay,
I have my old VW bus with Maxxis tires on it now.
Right on.
Pretty fun to pull out. Hopefully I get to drive it this summer.
That's outstanding. Your homework assignment, should you choose to accept it, is to try to find that ad, because I Googled every iteration of Geoff Kabush, Maxxis, tire, car, van, print ad, lasers. I couldn't find it for the life of me. And then I'm like, Google image has got to have it, but it's just not there.
I was just looking through like a folder on my computer with all my old ads. I can
nice. Send that over, dude. That'd be perfect. Oh, magical. Well, shoot, man.
Yeah, it was good to finally catch up. Missed you a couple of times, but man, who knows? Who knows when you'll see you next? But
cool. Well, enjoy it, and I will see you when I see you.
All right. Say hi to the family and take care.
Will do. Thanks, man.
Cheers.
See ya.
See ya.